All right. Let me share my screen.
Yes.
Everybody see my screen?
Yes.
All
Yes,
right.
Professor.
Yes, sir.
Excellent. All right. Let's give everybody a couple more minutes. Let's see who's here. Hope everybody's here. Let's see, we have Neil, Chengi, Riley, Jax, welcome. We have Jingi, Mothil, Paula, or Paola, Quevedo.
Paola. Yeah, Paola.
Welcome, everyone. Hello, Selene, Nandish, Devanshi. Thank you for coming.
Hello, Professor. Can I ask a couple of questions before we get started?
Sure, what's up?
Can I ask a couple of questions to you?
Yes, go ahead. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can I mean when you start today's class, can you go over where would we store all the static resources, as in the images that you would need, the logos, the fab
Sure.
icons, and all of
Yep.
that stuff? Yeah,
Yes.
and another question I've got for you is you mentioned in the last class that we could choose to use the public GitHub account or the CCS NAU's GitHub account.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah, and if I choose to use the public version of it, how would I go about adding you or the TAs as the collaborators? Because I would need you guys your public email so
Yep.
as to as
So
collab.
let's discuss that. Yeah, we'll talk about that
Okay.
today. Sure, definitely. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. That's all I've got. Thanks.
All right, let's see. We have Nikhil, Noah, Shayan, Stravani, Shumban. Welcome. Seeing you. Yuan, Andrew. All right, come on in. Let's see. Let's get started. All right, welcome everyone. Hope everybody had a great weekend. Let's see something on the chat. Hello. Hello, Riley. All right. Let's see. So I always like to go back to the syllabus since it gives us, there's a calendar there that shows us a little bit of where we are and where we're going. And so if we go back there, let's see, we just started last week. We talked about HTML, the course in general. We got you started on your first assignment. The first assignment is focusing on creating a static version of a couple of pages that later on we will revisit in our second and third and upcoming assignments. We'll come back and convert those static pages into dynamic pages. But for now, it's going to be all static content. Today, we're going to work some more on that. We'll get you going as far as we can to get you started on all the pages. And give you somewhat of the skeleton of what it might look like, and then let you go ahead and continue and flesh out the actual content. All right. We'll then throttle back a little bit and talk about a little bit more on the theoretical part and make sure that we cover all the various tags and attributes that you're going to need for completing the assignment. But I first want to get you going as far as I can by providing some demo code for you. We did introduce Bootstrap last week. We'll certainly be doing more of that, and we're going to be doing this for several weeks. And the intent is for you to feel comfortable and confident that where to find the information that you need, and if you don't, then suggest or encourage you to become familiar with some of this documentation that is online, and that you can take a look at it on your own. So yeah, all this week we're going to be doing mostly front end HTML, CSS, Bootstrap, and the intent is that you're going to be using all this to complete the assignment. You get to practice it on your own, building confidence, right? And so you'll have another weekend to work on the assignment, and they'll be due on the 1st of November. Okay, so that's another week or so that you can work on this, plus the code that we're going to give you to get you started. The later week, we're going to get into JavaScript and doing this dynamic, but that's a little later. I did add at the bottom here a section where it says assignments in the evaluations. So if you go to the evaluation sections under here, you'll see that myself and the TAs are adding repositories that are accounts so you can share with us. I have 2 accounts. I have the github.com account and I have the university account. And I personally prefer the github.com, the public, the private one that belongs to you. You know, there are a few other features that are available there that are not available in the CSS GitHub account. So, I mean, I would prefer everybody to use their github.com account, but you know, if you prefer to use the university CSS account, then by all means do that. I know that some of you are not a CSS students, so you might not actually have a CSS account, so you won't be able to use that. So instead, I welcome you to use the github.com account. Okay. And the TAs are filling out their account so you can share with them. Yes.
Is there any specific reason why you want it in our personal GitHub account, or?
The personal one, you know, if you want to take your content later on and share this with non-CS students or colleagues outside of the school, or you want to participate in open source projects, or you want to bring in other collaborators that are not part of the CSS, certainly GitHub.com gives you much more availability and visibility outside of the university.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. What else? I believe, yeah, that's all I wanted to talk about there. Okay, let's see. In the syllabus, let's see. We did cover the first week. As you know, I did add links to my to lectures, a playlist which I am adding all these YouTube videos, and they will be available there. Also, there's my channel. You should subscribe to that, and so that you can be notified whenever a new video comes up that might help you. There's a new link there for the final project requirements. You can take a sneak peek at that project. We'll go over this a little later. I really want to get you going with the assignment as far as we can, and we'll revisit that a little in a bit. All the TAs have provided their office hours, so you can go and get help from all of us. And here I've added links to the repositories that we're going to be using. For now, it's my repository, the Java server repository, that we created last week. As we continue building this project, we're going to be using other repositories for creating a front end with React.js. We're going to create another server with Node.js, right? So as we add more source code and introduce more technologies, we're going to use other repositories, and they will be shared here. Okay, but you can always get the latest source code from here. So yeah, so we finished up the first week, and we did introduce you to A1, the HTML and CSS assignment, and today we're going to just keep going, getting you further in that. So I'm going to work and demo some of that here in working towards the first assignment. Later on, we're going to come back and revisit HTML and CSS and some of the all the tags in a formal tag by tag, attribute by attribute, more as a reference. But I first want to demo it actually being used. So you get a feeling on how is that you use HTML and CSS to build pages, and how to use Bootstrap to build responsive design pages. But we'll come back perhaps when we meet again on Wednesday, and the next session. We'll throttle back a little bit and make sure that we cover all the material here as well. But certainly, I welcome you to take a look at these slides even before you come to class, so that we can quickly, go through it here in class. If you have also if you have questions and whatnot, you come already prepared with those questions. Okay. Let's see. So when we last met, we started working on this assignment, and as I mentioned, this is the first of several related assignments that we're going to be working throughout the semester. We're going to be building an online learning management system. Right? They're so popular now that everybody's remote. So that's going to take us the whole semester, and it's going to be two pieces, right? The first half of the semester, we're going to focus on implementing the learning management systems from the point of view of the faculty, right? And from the faculty, we kind of have like a dashboard where we can see all our courses. We can select a course, right? We navigate to that course, and from within that course, we can create new modules, right? We can add different widgets to a particular module, whether we want a quiz, or if we want to add a header, or if we want to add a URL, right? So we can add different widgets to a module, right? And then we can drag the content around. So that's what the faculty can do, right? So that we're going to focus on the first half of the semester on building the learning management systems from the point of view of the faculty. In the second half of the semester, we're going to focus from the point of view of the student. Okay, so yes, that's a little bit of what the architecture of the course looks like. Let's see something on the chat. Hi, Professor. Do we have the liberty of choosing the project topic of our choice? Yes, absolutely. Or we need to stick to a learning management. No. For the project, for the final project, right, the one that you're going to be working with your team, you are free to choose any topic whatsoever. For the assignments, right, assignment 1, 2, 3, and so on and so forth, though, that is the learning management system, right? We're all going to build the same thing, and you're going to build that individually on your own. Okay, well, I'm going to get you started. I will give you source code, and then you will finish it on your own. Okay, but the final project, the one where you team up with 2 or 3 other colleagues, that you are free to choose whatever topic you want. Okay, and that is due at the end of the semester, right? Literally after the final exam, the project is due then. The assignments are due every week and a half or so. Okay. All right. So let's see. We had introduced the first assignment, and we had started playing around with implementing a couple things. We started looking at implementing the sign up page. And we didn't get to the register page, so I wanted to explore building some of these, and also the profile page. I'm going to focus on the profile page because it kind of has quite a bit of different things, right, that you can then use to build the sign up and the registration page, right? You have labels, you have input fields over here, we have different types of input fields, we have buttons, we have a header over here. We have a kind of like a message here, like an alert, right? So let's spend some time implementing this, and what we learned from the profile, you can absolutely take and extrapolate to build the sign-in and the registration. Okay.
Oh, Professor, quick question.
Yes.
For this assignment, sorry. Welcome to Zoom meetings. Sorry. For this assignment, on February 1st, I was looking at the document that you gave, and then there is like course editor requirements. Is also that part of the assignment to turn in on that date, or is
yeah, and we'll get you started today on that.
Oh, okay. So like, but because it's not like dynamic, we just have like a
it's all static.
Static. Okay, perfect.
It's all static. Yeah.
So
we'll make it dynamic.
Okay.
We'll make it dynamic later.
That's in there, like I have to have it built by then. Okay.
Yep. Yes.
Thank you.
All right. So let's play around with the profile. Okay. So let's see where we left off last time. Oh, before we get started, I do need to drop off early today. I will continue providing some code examples that I will share with you, but I do need to cut short the lecture today. I'm sorry about that, but I will provide the source code that you will need to keep working on this. Okay. All right, so here's where we were. We left off for the web app. We did work on the login page. Let's run this and see where we were. I believe in the index page we have provided a hyperlink that allowed us to navigate to the login. All right, so let's see. This is starting up. I've also seen folks trying to run these HTML using right-click and run. Don't do that. Instead, start the whole server and then navigate to the page. Okay, so let's navigate to localhost 8080. And here we have the index page, which is going to allow us to navigate to logging. And this is pretty much where we left off. Okay, so let's move a little further. I'm going to skip ahead and go to the profile page, which is going to allow us to see all sorts of things that we can build. Okay, so let's do that. Let's create a separate directory where we can do the profile. Here it is. And we'll create the file here, the HTML file. Now I'm going to call it the wrong name, right? So you're going to be responsible for renaming this, right? I'm going to call it profile.html because I'm lazy. But no, remember to use the correct naming convention, which is going to be profile.template.client.html. Okay, so I'm going to call it profile. And all right, so let's create the profile here. And before I forget, right, let's create a hyperlink to navigate to the profile. All right, so let's create another hyperlink so that from the home page, we can navigate to the profile. So it would be here, profile, and then profile HTML, profile.html, right? So profile screen. Okay. And for now, for the profile, we'll do something simple and just do an H1 profile. Oops, profile. Okay. So let's rerun this. Let's go back to home and refresh. There's my link, right? And if I click on profile, there's my profile page, which we just created. Everybody okay? All right, that's pretty simple. Okay. So one of the things that we notice is that this index, notice that we are displaying it one line at a time here, but obviously HTML is ignoring completely my new line, and we can do a couple of things. We can do a break. Okay, a break that adds vertical spacing. So that would work. Let's do something a little more fancier, right? So we're going to comment this out, right? Notice that break, it doesn't have a body, right? Just like this A has a body, this is the body of this tag. This is the opening tag, and this is the closing tag, right? The difference is that it starts with open pointy brackets A, and it's closing because it has this slash. See that? But this one has a slash at the end. See that? So we say that this is a self-closing tag. Right? It has no body. It's not like it has an opening and a closing, and in the middle it has a body. Right? So BRs, some tags are like that. Right? They don't have anything that you can embed inside. Right? So certainly the BR is an example of that. But I'm going to comment it out. Right? Notice that comments in HTML are bang dash dash and dash dash greater than. So that's how you comment out something, right? So that you don't want it to render. So notice if I refresh, it's gone. It's as if we're gone, but it's not really gone. It's there, right? I can uncomment it. I can bring it back. So what we're going to point out is that a fancier way of listing, displaying this is as a list, right? So lists can be implemented using the UL tag, and UL stands for unordered list, as opposed to ordered lists. So OLs are ordered and ULs are unordered. Unordered means that they're bullets basically, and ordered means that you have 1, 2, 3, 4 like that. Okay, so we can wrap this hyperlink. We can wrap these two hyperlinks in this UL, meaning I want to make a list out of these hyperlinks, and then if I save that and I refresh, notice that it doesn't quite do what we want. All right, it adds this margin on the left-hand side, but it doesn't make them into a list. To make them, you have to wrap these into what are called list items. These are the items of each item in the list. Okay. Let's see, chat. Do we also have to style the home page for the assignment? No. It should have at least this minimum layout that I have here. but nothing fancy, right? At most, just the links that go into the other screens, right? So for instance, what we're gonna do is that we're gonna wrap, right, this hyperlink with a line item. See that? Wrap them with a line item like that. Okay, so if I refresh, notice that now my login screen is a bullet. See that? And let's do the same thing with this hyperlink over here. I'm going to put an LI around it. I'm going to wrap it right above and below, and say this is a line item. This is how it's read, right? That this is saying that the content is a line item, right? This is saying that this here is a hyperlink that links to that HTML. See that? So if I refresh, there they go, the 2 bullets. So it's a little bit prettier, right, than just having them all in one line. So now if I click on profile, it brings me to the profile. Everybody okay? All right, excellent. Let's keep going. So in the profile, right, one of the things that we want to do is have all these input fields, right? So we have the input field here for no, that's not it. Let's look at the assignment. Yeah, this is what we want to do, right? So we want to have this responsiveness so that it behaves, so that it's a horizontal, right, where the field name, the labels on the left, right, and the input field is on the right. When you have enough space, right, you have a wide screen, but we want it to be horizontal when the screen is small, tiny, like in a phone, right? So how do we do that? Okay, so to do that without self-closing tab works. Yes, but you should always close it, right? So an opening tag is bad syntax. You should it works because browsers are very forgiving, right? Browsers understand what you mean, right? And they do the right thing. But you should always add the self-closing if you don't have a closing and an opening and closing tag. All right, so how do we do this? How do we do this responsiveness? Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to use Bootstrap to do that. So Bootstrap already has that for us. There's no need to reinvent this, right? So let's get Bootstrap. If you look up in the documentation and you look up forms, if you look at forms, down below you'll find that there are responsive forms somewhere in here. Let's see, maybe it's this one. Accessibility. Let's see if it's this one. Form text. No, not that one. Let's see, let's search again. Forms, form control, forms. Form control. Okay, they move this around. Let's see. Form. Forms, text, disable, form control. Form control, that's where I am I? No, form controls. Let's see. Read only plain text. Okay, let's see if it's this one. Notice what I'm doing is I'm making it small. And there it is. So see what's happening here, right? So notice that this form is at some point is horizontal, right? The labels on the left-hand side, and the label of the passwords on the left-hand side, and the input fields on the right. But then when the screen is way too small, notice that it swaps to being vertical. Okay, so let's look at the source code. That can we have the labels of the input fields one below the other, or both mobile and laptop screen size? So what we're trying to learn how to do here is that we need to be able to display content in both cases, right? For when we have a wide screen and when we have a really small screen, and this is how we're going to be doing it, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this code, and you are absolutely welcome to reuse verbatim the code, any code that you find in Bootstrap. You are welcome to reuse verbatim, right? So we're going to copy that, okay, and we're going to paste the content right here. Okay, and let's look at this code just for a second, right? So what's going on here is that it's adding these divs. If you remember when we looked at divs last week, divs allowed us to create vertical spacing, right? So it logically broke up content so that one content, right, was took up the entire width of the screen, right, and then it pushed all the rest of the content down below. So what this does, these two divs allow you to break up this into two elements, right, that are logically separated, right? Also, we are adding here what the classes. Remember, classes allows you to add styling, right? The color, the background, the font. You can add all sorts of styling, right? And we'll look at that a little bit. Okay. Let's see something in the chat. Should we cite Bootstrap? No, you don't need to cite Bootstrap. You don't need to. I am encouraging to reuse it verbatim from there. Okay. So anything that's there, I would, if you want to do something and it says, I wonder how you do that, I would first search in Bootstrap how to do it. Right? Bootstrap is very developer friendly. It is built for us, the developer folks that are writing this code over and over. Okay. So a couple of things here. The outer div is being styled as a row, right? A row that presumably is going to have several columns, and that's how it's actually behaving. Notice that here it's behaving like one row and another row that has one column and then a second column. See that? Okay. Also notice that this column is smaller than this column, right? Proportionally smaller. Okay. So let's look at how that's built over here. There's a declaration of a row, and we'll go into much more detail on how to do this, a lot. All right, so we're going to repeat this over and over and over. So you'll get a chance to practice this too much. Okay, you're going to get sick of row and columns. Right, we're going to do that a lot this semester. But here it is. This is the row, and this here, these two are the columns. So this, and the way you know it's a column is notice that it's in the class. We are saying that this is a column. There it is. See that? And this second div is being styled also as a column. See that? Right?
Question.
Yes.
I was looking at the Bootstrap page, and if you decide to use container and then start shrinking the page,
yes,
it's already responsive, so it has a default.
Yes, right? It makes the margins. It makes the margins responsive, not the content.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Because it's I'm just saying in the code that you paste, you have MB that I'm guessing that is mobile. Yeah. And then you have the one that is, I saw it there was another one. But in the call that it says a small, I'm guessing that is for a specific screen. Yep.
Yes.
So if I want to, when you said that you want it responsive, you want us to target all these sizes?
No, not all the sizes. Here, only two sizes, the wide size and the small size.
Okay, so okay.
Which is exactly what's being implemented here.
Okay, so it's not big, because I saw that there was a small, medium, and I thought that I had to.
Yeah, and we'll go over that in detail, in full detail on how to do that. So this breaking up of the page in rows and columns, that is is called a grid system, right? So Bootstrap and other CSS styling libraries, they implement the idea of a grid system, okay, which basically is borrowed from the publishing industry, right? Where folks, since 1940 in the 1400s, when they invented the printing press, they started printing all these pamphlets, and they realized that after hundreds of years of printing and eventually newspapers and whatnot, was that folks, when they are reading, it's easier to read if you break up the content in columns, in small columns. So it looks better, it's easier, it doesn't strain the eye so much. So what Bootstrap did is that they borrowed from this industry, and they have a grid system. So let's take a look at the grid system real quick. If you go back to Bootstrap and you look here and you look up grid system. Okay. They explain here all these classes, right, that allow you to break up the page into rows and columns. Okay, And so, for instance, they break up the page into 12 equal columns. Why 12? Well, 12 is a nice round number. It's divisible by 2, divisible by 3, divisible by 4, right? Divisible by 6. So it's a nice round number that you can nicely break up into usable units. Okay, and so for instance, you can declare a row and then multiple columns. Okay, and then you can give relative sizes of those columns. Okay, if you just say column all by itself, it means that you want the columns all to be the same, right? So if this one has 2 columns, the 2 columns are the same size. If you break it up into 3 columns, those 3 columns are of the same size. Okay, but you can break them up into certain ones being bigger than others, right? So for instance, you can give it a size, see -6, see that? Now that means that the whole width is 12, and when you say -6, it means that you want to take up half of the screen, right? And then the remainder of all the other widths are distributed among the remainder of the other columns, right? So if this is 6, that means that this has to be 3 and this has to be 3, right? If this is 5, right, then the other 2 are split up into 7. Okay, or you can specify exactly the sizes that you want, right, for all of them, right? So for instance, what we're doing here in the example that we have here, we're saying column 2, see that? And this one says column 10, see that? Which turns out to add up to 12, right? 10 and 2 add up to 12. Okay, everybody okay with that? All right. So let's go back. Let's take a look at now that there's an additional attribute here that says -sm, right? -sm, right? SM stands for small, right? Yeah, let's see something in the chat. It says what is the larger column? Okay, so what this says here is that SM means small, right? And so what Bootstrap said, okay, well, it could be that depending on the size of the screen, you would want a particular layout, but in a different size of the screen, you might want a different layout, right? For instance, it might make sense that in a really wide screen, like a newspaper, it makes sense to have maybe 5, 6, 7 columns, right? You have plenty of space, right? And you want to break it into smaller columns, but as you make the screen smaller on a phone, it might not make sense to have 7, 8 columns in such a small screen. Okay, so what Bootstrap did is it says, okay, you know what? Well, let's choose certain very common sizes and resolutions for screens, and let's give them logical names. Okay, so and they're listed here. You should absolutely take a look at this documentation. Breaks it up into these logical names, extra large, large, medium, small, and extra small. Okay, and so what this says is that when you add these identifiers -m or -md or -lg, what you're saying is that I want to apply this layout, -10 or -2. Only for screens that are of that size and bigger. Right? You're saying that what we're saying here is that screens that are small, meaning that they're bigger or greater than 576 pixels, if they're that size or bigger, then I want to apply the layout that this should be 2 on the left-hand side and 10 on the right-hand side. And that's exactly how it's behaving, right? That's exactly what's happening here, right? Notice that this form, where to go? This form here, right, at the very big size here, this is, no, this wasn't it. Where are you? There it is, right? This one is has 2 on the side and this 10. And as I make it smaller, it's still 2 and 10, 2 and 10, 2 and 10, 2 and 10, up until I get so small, less than 570 something pixels, right, that this flips. There it is. See that? It flips. And it flips. It's not that it flips. It's actually what it's doing is saying, I don't want the layout anymore. Right? I don't want 2 and 10. So it basically reverts to the normal layout. The normal layout is that it's laid out vertically. Okay. In HTML, the most common layout is that you lay it out vertically from top to bottom. Okay, so the default behavior is that div lays out from top to bottom vertically. Okay, but here with this classes, we are overriding that behavior and we're saying, no, I know you want to be vertical, but instead here I want you to be horizontal, right? 2 and 10 horizontal, right? And then when you get smaller than SM, then forget it. Don't revert to your behavior, normal behavior, where this shows above and this shows below. Okay, that makes sense. Again, we're going to do this a lot of times. All right, we're gonna be practicing this over and over and over for the next 2 weeks. Okay, and you're going to have a chance to do this throughout the whole semester. But I want to introduce it to you, and we're going to be using it definitely for today's assignment. Okay. All right. Excellent. So let's use this layout, right, to build the profile. So what do we want to build? We want to build this profile over here. So we want a username, right, and an input field on the right-hand side. So let's do that. So we have here a username, and we're going to have an input field right here. Okay, there's going to be also a couple things here to make this more readable. It's nice if you break up all these attributes. If you have so many attributes, right, it's a good practice to split it up into multiple lines of code. Okay, let's see in the chat. While resizing the browser on Chrome rearranges the resizes elements, the layout on the actual phone. Okay, if you're trying to follow me, okay, I'm not going to be able to debug, as we go. All right, so please just follow, just see what I'm doing, and then we can discuss more detail about specific problems each one of you might have. But yeah, let's focus a little just what I'm doing here. Okay. All right. So here we have the input field, and I just changed this to be a username. Let's and here I have the input field for the username. I'm going to put the slash at the end, even though they didn't add it. I'm adding it. Class, I'm just going to do a form control. Form control. If you look at the forms, if you look at the form controls here, right? It gives you a couple examples on using form control and some styling to make them big, small, right? Or just plain old form control to give the rounded corners and whatnot. Okay, so definitely this is a good first step on seeing how to style various input fields, right? Big, large text for text areas, or small, just a single liner, right? So form control adds that rounded corners. We're saying that it's read-only meaning that you can't type at it, right? The default type is text. We're using that, and we're giving a default value for the input field. Okay, and this is username, and the username might be Alice. Okay. Also, notice that this for here is referencing this ID here. See that? The ID gives a unique identifier to an input. Okay, or actually, no, any element can have a unique identifier, and it's useful so that they can be either referenced from code in JavaScript, or like in this case, this label is referencing this ID over here. Okay. Although the ID might not be relevant here, a better ID might be username, and username. And what it does, right? What it does is that if we look at the profile, notice that if I click on it on the input, on the username, on the label, notice that it's makes the value highlighted. Notice if I click on password, right? Notice that it makes it highlighted. Okay, and that's what label does, right? If I remove this for, if I remove that for, and I click on, if I refresh and I click on the username, notice that it does not highlight the input field, right? I would have to click it myself. And this is useful, especially for small screens, like in a phone. You want to make the clickable area as big as possible, including the label, right? Not only the input field, but the label. Now notice that the styling is being ignored because we never loaded the Bootstrap library. Let's load the Bootstrap library. We'll get it from Bootstrap CDN, right, like we did last time. All right, so I'm just going to copy this, and I'll bring it in as a link. So this is a link, and we'll do href. There it is, and the relation is that this is a style sheet. If I refresh, there it is. So this is starting to look prettier. Okay. Notice that we have the same issue as last time, that the edges on each side, there's no margin, and it looks funny, right? It looks kind of ugly, that it's flush to the parent container, right? So to fix that, Bootstrap provides several containers that we can add. We can wrap our entire content with this container that will bring up some nice margins all around. Okay, there's a couple. There's two that are in particular useful. One is called container, just plain old container. Right, if we refresh, notice what it does. If I make it small, notice that it adds quite a bit of margins on either side. Okay, and as so if I go back to 100%, there's the normal size. And as I go small, notice that the size doesn't change. Size doesn't change, but as I become smaller and smaller, notice that it's going to change there. See that, right? It automatically shrinks, right, as the screen gets smaller, right? Maintaining the relative sizes of the columns. Okay, so as I become smaller and smaller, notice that there's a change there too. Again, there. See that as I go from extra large to medium to small to extra small. Okay, all right. So I go smaller and smaller and smaller. There it is. I'm about to enter the extra small. And when I get into the extra small, notice what happens, right? It changes from horizontal layout, right, to a vertical layout, right? Because right here, I am bigger than extra small, meaning I'm small, right? So I am applying the layout from small and above, right? And small and above, notice that indeed the layout stays. But if I go below small, extra small, notice that it doesn't apply anymore, okay? Should we use the Bootstrap version? I would use the latest one. Yeah, the very latest one. Or whatever's in the CDN. Right? We're not gonna use any bleeding edge features. Okay, so we have the username and password. Notice that the username I cannot type, right, because we've added the attribute here as read-only. If I remove the read-only and I go back, notice that I can type. Okay, but I'm gonna leave the read-only. Okay, let's see what else. Password, actually, I don't remember if the assignment asked us to create a password. Apparently not, but I'll leave it there. But let's create some other ones. Let's do phone. Let's create phone. So I'm just going to add and copy one of these for each type of element. So let's a type of field that we want, right? So this one we want phone. So let's create here phone, and this will be the ID. I'll call it phone. And this should match this ID right here. Sorry, the ID right there. Okay, and as good practice, let's break this up into everything in its own line, so it make it easier for everybody else to read, especially the TAs and myself. Yes, make it really easy to read for all of us. So tell ID is phone. Notice that type, this phone is not a type password. But you can take a look at all the possible values that this type could be. It could be a button, it could be a number, right? Like if you want to enter the number, the age, your age, right? Submit if you want to submit a form, range if you want a slider, check boxes, date, right? Email, telephone, right? So you can add a telephone. Now on the browser here on the desktop, it might not help a lot, but if you're accessing this through a phone, it would be pretty cool, right? It would show up the telephone keypad, right? Which is nice, right? It's a nice useful thing for if I'm visiting this with a phone, right? So if I refresh, there's our phone, right? And it should only allow you. Yeah, no, it's not validating. On a phone, you couldn't press letters. You can only press phones, numbers and parentheses and hash, anything that is a valid phone, right? But on the desktop, you don't get that. Okay, let's do an email. So let's do this again. Copy, and this would be email. So this would be email, and the type and the ID is going to be email. right? And the type is going to be email. There is email is a valid type of an input field, right? And what that means is that, again, if you visit this with a phone, right? Right, this email here, oh, I didn't change the label. The label's email, right? And maybe we want to put a valid value here. Value, we say Alice at Wonderland. Refresh, there it is. Okay. Now the cool thing here is that if you visit this with a phone, right, with an Android or Apple, whatnot, right, the email keypad would show up, right? You know, with the @ sign and with the .com, .net, .edu. So it's very convenient for somebody who's visiting this with a phone. So yeah. So definitely use the correct data type. Okay. Let's do a couple more. Oh, something on the chat. The chat, by pressing what key can we have the drop down menu? Here, if I say type, and I believe, what did I do? All right, so if you do Control and space, at least on Mac OS, it brings up the autocomplete. Yeah, and see all the values. So your IDE is your best friend. Let's do a couple more. Let's see. In the assignment, you're asked to do drop down for the role. Let's create a drop down. All right, so this would be maybe role. Now for role, what we're going to do here, this will be the input field. The label will be the for role. For doing a role, we're going to use another tag, right? Another tag called the select tag, right? So the select tag allows you to create a drop down, right, where you can select from several options, right? And you can list all the options, right? So the options might be that you're faculty, right, or that you are a student. Oops, that you're a student, or maybe you're just staff. Okay, and the way that renders is like that. It's a drop down. See, this is the default rendering of a drop down. Okay, we can make this a little prettier by adding one of those classes, right? Like form control, right? That's gonna add, you know, the full width of the parent, right? So it's, you know, add the rounded corners. It makes it look a little more presentable. Let's see something on the chat. Instead of a default like value, is there a way to have it be grayed out? Certainly, right? So for instance, in the so first of all, let me add here the ID, an ID of role. Yeah, so for instance, this here, instead of value, if you put this, you say placeholder, what it does is that it makes it grayed out, right? So for instance, see that if I can now type over this, right? The value there is not an actual value, it's a hint. It's a hint of what it is that you want to type, okay? You can also create a tooltip. You can create a tooltip by adding a title, say title, and you can type whatever you want. You know, please enter a valid email. Okay, so that if you refresh and you hover over it, it brings up a small tooltip. There it is. So please enter a valid email. You know, to give some examples on what it is that you're asking me to type in here. Okay, although usually this label on the left-hand side, you know, is somewhat useful. Let's add one more. Let's add the dates. Let's add a date. All right, so I'm going to copy this over here, and let's say we're going to date of birth, for instance. So let's see, date of birth. So this would be DOB. Okay, so we'll call this DOB, and this would be ID is also DOB, and the type is going to be date. There it is. See that date? I can choose date. Title is please enter your date of birth. Okay, and no placeholder. For value, we can give it an initial value, and the value is always the same format, right? The dropdown might be different depending on where you live, right? In Europe or Asia, or whatnot, the time format is different, but the value here, the initial value is always the same. It's you can say 2021. Today is January, and today is the 25th. So it's always 4 digits for year, then month, and then day. So we go back and we go go here, notice that here in the US, the format is year, month, day. I mean, year, day, month, day, and then year. All right, that's the format here, right? Obviously, if you're in India or Europe or China and whatnot, right, the format will be different, right? And if you click here, you'll get a drop down and for the date picker. And this date picker is different for different OSs, right? So if you're on Mac OS or Windows or Linux, right, this drop down will be rendered for whatever operating system you're in. Okay, and that's totally fine, right? You can't style it. You can't override that. What else? And also, if you're going on a phone, the cool thing is if you click on this, you'll get the date picker, right, on your phone, right? Whether you're Android or iOS, you'll get the date picker for your particular operating system, which is pretty cool. Okay, let's see something on the chat. Should the profile page have the actual values entered or just static data? It's all static, right? It's all static. Nothing is dynamic here, not until we get to JavaScript, right? And the last thing here is that we might add a hyperlink, okay, hyperlink that maybe might not have anything on the left-hand side. You know, we'll leave it empty on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, we'll put maybe a hyperlink that allows us to navigate away, maybe like a logout, right? So we can have maybe a button here, or maybe a hyperlink that maybe navigates back to the login page if we log out. How's that, right? So we can go maybe up and then to index. Okay, and you can say log out. Right, so that if we click on logout, right, it navigates us back to the index page. Or we can make this look like a button, right? We can style it by adding classes. We can say class equal btn. That makes it into a button. And then I can give it a color. Maybe danger. Danger is red. There it is. So it's log out. Or I can make it take up the entire width of the screen by saying btn block. Okay, save that, refresh. There it is. If I click on logout, it brings me back. All right, and I encourage you to take a look at Bootstrap. Right, if you look at buttons, right, you'll have all the documentation you need to style it and make it look anything you want. You can use either btn, and you can use button, the actual button tag. Right, that's if you're going to use JavaScript or in a form. But if you're doing something simple like navigating from one page to the other, you can use instead of hyperlink, right, and then style it like a button, which is exactly what I did here, right? Later on, when we use actual JavaScript, we might go back and recreate this using button, right? And we'll show you how to do that when time comes. Is it okay to use relative or absolute? Absolutely, yes. I would prefer you use relative. Yes, I would use relative. So that allows you to move things around, and the IDE can help you fill out those kinds of content. All right, excellent. So that's I think a good start for you to get going with creating the profile page. Right, here's a profile page, and you can make this smaller. Also, the alert at the top, right? If you look here for alerts, you look for alerts, you can make all sorts of alerts, right? In all different colors, green, red, yellow, okay? And it's very easy. You can just copy one of these, right? And you can add it at the top of the profile, right? And add an alert danger, which is red, or danger Will Robinson. Right, and that creates a red, or you can add another alert with green, right? Success, yay! Right, so you have lots of alerts, right? And for now, just leave them as static. We'll come back later with JavaScript, and we'll hide and display it based on logic. Okay? Yeah. All right, excellent. So let's get you started on another page, right? Let's get. Yes.
Sorry, I just have a question on the resizing. So
Yeah.
I started on this yesterday, and I tried to resize it using the toggle bar that is available in the console. So in that resizing, I use the same column empty, but when I resize it using the console inspect element, the resizing didn't work.
Yeah. Let's take a look. Let's take that offline. So maybe we can
Okay.
meet together and we can take a look at it one-on-one and see
Sure.
what, I'm sure folks have plenty of different issues that we can revisit together.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So let's take a look at this. Right. The course manager. Actually, no. This one's this one's easier. I want to get you started on a harder one. This one's really hard. So let's create this. This is the course editor, right? So let's create here a directory. I'm going to call it the editor. I'm not sure the assignment asks you to use a specific name. Use whatever the assignment tells you to use. And I'm going to call this the editor as well. So I'm going to call this the editor.html. And I'm going to copy a couple of things from my profile, in particular this link that is going to use add Bootstrap. There we go. And I'm also going to copy the container. I'll copy the container and the H1. All right, I'm going to close that container. And this is called the editor. All right, I'm also going to add a hyperlink so I can navigate to it. So this is going to be editor, and this is editor, and this is course editor. Okay. All right, let's refresh, and now I can navigate to the course editor. We're here. Okay. So what I'd like to show you is, in particular, the layout over here. Right. The layout. Notice that it's left-hand side, right-hand side. Okay. It's got two columns, and we know how to do that. We just learned how to do that. All right, let's do that from scratch. Okay. So here we can create a row. Okay. Oops. And the row has two columns. See that? So it's one column horizontally, and we can create two columns. We can say div class column, right? And this is another one. So I'm going to copy this twice. So this is going to be list of modules, and here is the main content. Okay. So let's see what that looks like. There we go. So notice that we already have like a row with multiple content there, right? And now the sizing is different, right? The sizing is that actually we want it to be kind of like 2/3 on one side and like 1/3 on the left hand side, or like 2/3 on the right hand side. We can break that up. We can say that here I don't want equal. I want the left hand side maybe 2/3. So 2/3 of 12. No, I'm sorry, a third. A third of 12 is 4. So this is column 4. Okay, and this is going to be column 8, right? And let's see if that works. There it is, right? So notice that the left-hand side is a little smaller than the right-hand side, right? So using the grid system, right? And the grid system, again, I welcome you to take a look at the grid system, right? And how to use it and break it up into multiple columns and rows and whatnot, as opposed to using tables. Do not use tables for this, all right? You'll absolutely lose points for that. So do not use that. Is it okay we don't validate the input? Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, you don't have to. All right, so the left-hand side has what? The left-hand side has a list. It has a list of things, and the list is modules, right? So module 1, and it presumably has a whole bunch of modules. Okay, so let's create a couple lists. So module 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, right? Now, if you look up how to style lists, right here, if you look lists, list group, right? So they give you an example on how you can style it and make it look pretty, right? So there it is. So if you add, right now, it looks ugly. Look at that, right? It's just bullets, right? Just bullets. Let's make that look pretty. If you add this class list group, right, to the parent one, and you add then this list group item to each one of the items, right, this will look much more presentable. right? So that if you go back and refresh, notice that it's starting to look prettier, okay? And same thing with the right-hand side, right? For instance, over here, this over here could be rendered like tabs, right? So you can take a look at how tabs can be rendered. So you can look at tabs, nav bars, and tabs, right? And here's a couple of tabs, right? How can they be rendered? There we go. Here are tabs, and you can copy a couple of tabs here and see what that looks like. Now you can print it and display it here on the main content and display what the tabs might look like. Let's say take a look at, right? Refresh. There we go. We had some tabs at the top, and down below, according to this, right? These can be rendered maybe as pills, right? They're very common, standard navigational ideas on how to display these kinds of things, and they have become very familiar and common jargon in the industry, right? Pills, tabs, lists, and whatnot. Okay, so if you look at pills here, there we go, pills, right? It's just in the same page, a little further down. You have an example on how to style these pills. Again, try as much as possible reuse this code without having to recreate this. You know, this is a very great developer resource, right? That you can use open source. You know, it's freely available. All right, so let's add it here as well. Let's see how that renders. Okay, there's our tabs, and tabs at the top, and then pills down below. Let's add a couple of spacing here, maybe a break. There's some spacing between the two. And that's it, right? So this is the beginnings of that content. The widgets themselves, these widgets, that's way in the future. Okay, we'll play around with that a little much later in the future, right? So let's leave that out for now. Okay, so this is fairly complex, and you're not required to do this for the assignment. They're shown here just as an example. Let's do a couple more things. Notice that these are kind of fonts that we could use, right, for these deletes and whatnot. For that, we're going to be using Font Awesome. So if you go to fontawesome.com, this is a open source set of fonts that you can use freely. Some of them you have to pay for, but most of them are usable for free, right? And you can load that just like Bootstrap for free. You can get Font Awesome some CDN. So you can link it. Get Font Awesome CDN. Yeah, right here. Font Awesome. Yeah, you can just click here, copy that, and then link it just like you did for Bootstrap. You can say link, right, and do the href is Font Awesome, and then relative is the style sheet. Okay. Once you do that, you can start using some really cool fonts. Right. So, for instance, next to the module, right, the way you display these fonts is that you use the I for it's not icon. It's not I for icon. Actually, it means italic, but nobody uses that tag anymore for italicizing content. It's very common for using for icons. Let me show you. You can say icon, right, and you have to close it. You do have to close it, otherwise it won't work. Right. For this one, you do need to have a closing tag. Right, and then you can add here classes that are Font Awesome classes that allow you to reference any number of icons, right? And they all start with FA for Font Awesome, and then FA whatever icon you want. And there's tons of icons. There's hundreds. There's thousands of icons, right? I know a few of them by heart. So there's trash, for instance. Trash is an icon that allows you to display a trash can. There it is. See that? Trash can. There's also, there is a Bootstrap class that allows you to move things to the right-hand side. So they're justified on the right-hand side. So for instance, you can add a class here, which is part of the Bootstrap, but you can say you pull to the right, meaning push it to the right-hand side. Right. So there it is. So it's on the right-hand side. Right. So whatever you want this icon, you can just copy this, right, and then add it to any element that you want to add a trash can icon, right? We can add at the end of this, we can add maybe a plus sign, right? So maybe at the very last line item, right? It's not, it's this hyperlink could be maybe an icon. Maybe it could be an icon right? That has, it's a font awesome icon that has a FA plus. You know, this adds an icon with the plus sign. See that, right? Plus each one might have a trash can, right? So that you can remove each individual hyperlink over here, right? So this over here, right? You can add an icon for a trash can. So it has a trash can right next to it. See that, right? So definitely this should give you a starting point for the editor, right? So reuse this, make it look prettier. Definitely become familiar with the Bootstrap on how is it that we added some of these. Notice that notice that this active here is highlighted, but the other ones are not, right? And so the way we achieve that is that we add this active class, right? Notice that this is the only one that has active, but none of them has active. See that? That's how is it that we highlight one but not the others. Same thing with the pills. The pills is also follows more of the same idea, right? We have we can turn on and highlight a particular pill, so it's highlighted. So we can use the same thing here. If we go back up to the line items over here, you can apply active. You apply active to any of these to make it highlighted. See that? It's now highlighted. Later on, when we use JavaScript, we're going to learn how to do this programmatically. Like for instance, if I click, right? If I click, right, it highlights, and if I click another one, it unhighlights all the other ones and highlights this one. But we can't do that just yet, right? We don't know how to do that, right? We need to learn how to do JavaScript and do on click and all that, which we haven't covered at all just yet. Okay. Let's see. There was something on the chat. Could you go over again why we have both pills and tabs here? Right, because the assignment asks is as follows. Right, on the left-hand side, we kind of have a list of modules. Here, this is a whole bunch of tabs, presumably. I guess I should have rendered it more to look like tabs. But these are the lessons in a module. So if you click on a module, you have different lessons in that module. And then if you click on a module, on a lesson, then you have multiple topics. Like for instance, if this were React, then you would get functional functional classes, functional components, non-functional components, maintaining state, yada yada, the different lessons. And then if you click on a particular lesson, then you have different topics within that lesson. Okay. All right, UI under topic is not required. Yes, right, this down below, these widgets down below, all these, that's not required. I believe the assignment does say that the widgets are not required, okay? You can get started and play around with them, but that will get started in the next assignment, right? So the widgets are not required. I'll make a post just to make sure if it's not clear that definitely the widgets are not required for this assignment. All right. All right, folks, that's all I have for you today. I will be posting a couple more things. I will share with you code to get you started also with this, right? To get you started with this table for the course manager. But I now need to drop off. And something came up. But yeah, I will share some code also with the course manager, and I'll push it to the repository so you can have a place to start. You have an example that should get you going so that you can work all this week and over the weekend to finish up this assignment. Okay. All right. Anything else before we drop off? What should we put in there? Yeah, just leave the bottom right after below the pills. Leave that open. Do not put anything. I mean, you can start playing around with it, but we're not going to grade it. Right. Any content below the pills is completely optional, and we'll come back to it a little later with much more detail. All right. If you want to come, if you do want to come back later tonight and review this whole content again, you're absolutely welcome. We do meet at 7:30, and we're gonna do exactly what we did right now. We'll do it all over again. So yeah, you got 2 chances to see me live, talk about this assignment, and work on it live. Plus, obviously, the video will be available. All right.
Can I ask a question, Professor?
Yes. What's up?
Well, I found the Chrome's inspect tool to be useful for testing.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
when I tried to do that, and then there was a facility where I could in real time make the screen fit XS, SM, LG, or whatever the screen size we want.
Yeah.
And when I tried to fit it in XS, the container wasn't really resizing. It showed as if we would see it in
Yeah, yeah.
desktop.
When you resize that space of the developer tool takes up, it actually steals space from the left-hand side, right? So you might not be looking at the actual size of the screen. So you might want to put the developer tool at the bottom instead of the side, so that you can actually see the 100% size of the screen, right? And so you can debug it correctly, right?
Okay, thanks.
All right. I need to get going. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Professor.